Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3, and I'm finally back with a new video. And this is going to be the top 10 of 1984. So, yeah, my favorite horror films from 1984. 1984 was a really good year, to be honest, in my opinion. And also, before I continue with this video or this list, is that I wanted to make some sort of top list of the 10th 2010, not 2010, but the 10th. I don't know what if you call it that, but all the films that have come out from 2010 and up to 2019, horror movies, so to say, to just list those that have been my favorite ones that have come out in the last decade. So yeah, that was a little bit mumbling here, but yeah. Now let's begin with the top 10 of 1984 before I this gets really boring. So yeah, and first up is a film which I'm probably gonna get a whole lot of hate for because most people really hate this film. But I don't think it is as bad as many people make it out to be. It feels like people make it out to be very bad just because the director himself said that he only did this movie for money and he was like didn't care that much about it himself. But yeah, The Hills Have Eyes 2 from the 80s. I actually think this is really underrated by far. I'm not saying it's a really great film or anything. I mean, the first one is much better, but I think this still has some really cool atmospheres in it. Really cool atmosphere in it, and the actors and the characters are really good, and some of the death scenes are really entertaining as well. And there's a really funny scene. I think people have probably talked about this like for over and over again, but there's like this dog who has a flashback scene, which is really bizarre. But I think that's the reason why I like it. It's very weird and bizarre. That's I would describe it as. So yeah, The Hills Have Eyes Part Two at number 10. And at number 9 is another film which feels like you either like it or not. I actually do like it, even though I can see why people don't like it. And that movie is Night of the Comet um, at number 9. Um, this is sort of like a post apocalyptic sci fi type of film, which feels like it could have only been made in the 80s. If I remember correctly, the soundtrack to this was really entertaining as well, and very. I don't want to compare it to like The Thing, but it feels like very. It feels like there's pretty much like almost no one left alive in this world or in this movie. But yeah, really like I don't want to say atmospheric all the time, but really eerie atmosphere from time to time, and it has some funny like dialogue and some funny like funny lines in it. So yeah, Night of the Comet at number 9. And at number 8 we have once again a very eerie, creepy film called The Company of Wolves. I remember the first time I'd watched this film, I had a hard time getting through it. I mean, it wasn't really that I was like bored or anything. For some reason, I started watching it like 9 o'clock on the evening, and I just fell asleep, and I fell asleep, and I like tried to watch it, so I fast forward to the bit where I remember that I fall asleep at, and I just kept doing that over and over and over again. But finally, I was like, well, I need to watch this goddamn film now, so I put it on like on a Saturday afternoon, and watched the whole way through. So yeah, and that day just I don't forget that day, because if I remember correctly, that day was like really like rainy and very foggy outside, and this was a really perfect movie for that. And I'm not like once again, this is not a film that you would say is perfect, but I really love the musical score to this is really great as well, really creepy. And this cover art, I know some people think it's really stupid, but I think it's really awesome and cool. So yeah, Company of Wolves at number 8. And at number 7 is a film which I think is really underrated. This is an Australian horror film about a boar, and the film is called Racerback. Once again, this is a film which I think I really like because not the atmosphere, the the locations and the music in it is really great. And even though it has like some really irritating like assholes in this, I mean really unlikable characters, you still really like this film. And our main hero is a really likable like character as well. So and there's like this hunter guy, which is really great as well. And I'm not saying like the acting is like phenomenal or anything, but I still think it's really underrated when it comes to the acting in this. And the board itself is really cool looking and practical, and that's really great. So yeah, Racerback at number 7. And at number 6 is part of a series, and that film is Friday the 13th, Part 4. The final chapter, said no one ever. Well, the filmmaker said that when they made the film, but of course there were many movies after that. But yeah, this is probably one of my favorite ones in the entire series, along with Part 1 and Part 6, I believe. I also really like Part 8. I know most people don't like Part 8, but I really like that one as well. But this one is definitely one of the best, and yeah, this cover is also really great as well. Not really sure how well you can see that, but yeah, most people already know about this one probably. So if you're a horror fan, you've probably already seen it. So yeah, not gonna go to any more details about that, but yeah, Friday the 13th, the final chapter or Part 4 at number 6. And number 5 is one of the films which like sort of introduced me to horror, and maybe that's the reason why I like it so much. And that film is Children of the Corn, the very first one. And yeah, of course I do like some of the sequels as well. Part 5 is probably the weakest one which I've seen. I've only seen the 7 movies. I've not seen anyone after that, but yeah, this is probably one of my favorite ones in the series, along with Part 2. And once again, killer kids, like killing people, and when you find out that they have basically like wiped out this entire little like town from the adults and just killing them in brutal ways, that's really creepy. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this one, because I think most people have probably already seen this one as well. Even though I know some people say, "Oh, the ending is so bad with those effects," but you mean, come on, it was 1984. They didn't have the best effects to work with, so I think they made the best out of what they had. So yeah, Children of the Corn at number 5. Now I've been almost talking for 8 minutes, so I need to speed up a little bit. At number 4 is a film that you could call this a horror, and you could call this a comedy, and you could call this like a Christmas film. And yeah, maybe that's the mix of all of those genres that makes this movie really work. Sometimes that's just irritating and annoying, but this movie really does it really well. And that film is Gremlins. And of course there were a whole bunch of those films that sort of tried to cash in on the success of this, like Critters and Ghoulies and what was that other film called? Critters, Ghoulies, Hobgoblins, Troll, Munchies. I think that's the ones that I come up with right at the moment. But the sequel to this is not really as good as this one, but this one is really entertaining and yeah, really good Christmas film for us horror lovers out there. So yeah, Gremlins. Most people have probably seen that before. And number 3, we have one of my favorite monster movies of all time. Schad, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers. Look up if you haven't seen this like trailer for this film. Look that up. It's just hilarious because this narrator like just says the title of the film like millions of times. Not millions of times. I mean that was stupid to say, but yeah, you get what I mean. Most people, I've heard some people say that this is so boring. It never happens anything. But I really like the sleazy New York look to this film, and the creatures themselves, even though you don't see them that much, they are really great. And I think that sort of adds to some of the atmosphere, because sometimes when it comes to these type of films, less is more, and that makes this movie much more creepier than your ordinary like monster movie with like Critters. I mean, not Critters, but with Gremlins, because you see those in like that. Those are not scary; they are just like there to vandalize the entire city. But these guys are really creepy, and yeah, really entertaining monster film. If you haven't seen this one, check it out. Comes in at number 3. And at number 2 is probably my favorite Christmas horror film of all time, Silent Night, Deadly Night. I've talked about this movie so damn many times, so I don't really feel like I should talk about it that much more. yeah, if you love Christmas films and you love horror films, this is the perfect one for you. And this is actually a little bit funny trivia that this film actually did much better than A Nightmare on Elm Street did up until this movie got like pulled from the theaters because of people that were protest just because people just wanted out of the theaters. That was what I wanted to say, because yeah, it was very controversial when it came out and they pulled it from the theaters, and yeah, that was the end of that. So I think they had maybe some screenings after that, like after that whole hype was gone. But yeah, anyway, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and number 2. Sorry for that mumbly bit. Don't really understand why I talk like that. But anyway, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and number 2. And what film can be in at number 1, if not the very first movie in this series? Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, of course. This is my box set, which was signed by Robert Englund himself when I visited the sci-fi convention this year. What's to say about this film, which hasn't really already been said? Masterpiece when it comes to the horror films in general, and yeah, I just refuse to watch that remake. I mean, one thing is that I want to see how bad it is, but at the same time, I don't want the original like ruined just because of that stupid film. Probably. Now I don't say that a remake ruins like the first like original, but I'm not like a split 50-50 there. It's sort of the same thing with the Fright Night, that remake. I'm a big fan of the original Fright Night, and maybe that's the reason why I don't want to watch the remake, because I don't feel like there's any need for a remake. And I think that's probably the same thing with this one. The remake feels so unnecessary since the first one is such a great and perfect, nearly perfect movie. So yeah, A Nightmare on Elm Street at number 1. Now that was my top 10 horror movies of 1984, and I mean these movies can like jump up from time to time in the ratings. I mean, or like in the list. I mean, some of these films, maybe some of these films wouldn't even qualify if I like watched more horror films from that year. And this is just what I can remember the most from, and which films that I've rewatched more times, and yeah, sort of like that. I think you get what I mean. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed and didn't get bored, and I hope to see you again as soon as possible. So see you next time. Bye bye.